everyone. Welcome to our last episode of Dateable for season 11. Also, our last episode of 2020. Right?
2020 has finally come to an end, or it's about to come to an
Like,
end.
get the fuck out of here, 2020. Make
I,
room for 2021.
I feel like there's literally no New Year's plans this year because we can't have any, but also everyone's like, fuck this year. Like, but I guess that would be maybe grounds to celebrate the new one, but also we don't know what's around the corner on January 1st. Probably not much change initially.
I know. My friend was saying the same thing. He's like, 2021, exact same shit as
Yeah.
2020.
We're just used to it now. It's
But
not a
there-
surprise anymore. There's hope on the horizon. I feel like
Yes.
the flex of 2021 on dating profiles is going to be if you got the vaccine or not. Total flex.
Exactly. The news of 2021 is the vaccine, and I think that's going to change quite a bit of our lives for that year. So yes, we're still looking forward to the new year, but we're very much looking forward to this episode because it is our season finale. It's our yearly finale. It's such a groundbreaking episode because we've been having this conversation forever. It's all about, can you have it all? Can you have it all? Or do you have to sacrifice a part of your life for another aspect of your life? Like, for example, can you have a very successful career, but you kind of suffer on a personal note? Or can you have a really successful relationship, but suffer maybe professionally? So this is kind of like the question it's $1 million question. Can you have it all? And our guest for this episode proves that yes, you fucking can.
And she's also UA's idol / UA in a later life. There's so many like parallels between you two. I'm like, wait, are we hearing from Mei Lee is her name?
Yes.
Or are we hearing from UA right now? Because I'm very confused in this weird like time warp of the two of you.
Would be very honored if I were May, like a few years into the future. May is a world-renowned journalist, and she's also just a fucking badass woman.
She's amazing. I loved her because you did her podcast, The Mei Lee Show, and you were like, it's all about representing Asian Americans, which is amazing too. Like, was Asian Americans in the media? Is that what it's focused on?
Or just Asians.
Asians and everywhere.
Billions
Clearly,
of us.
I sat this one out, but I remember you. I literally got off the phone with May for the interview, and you were like, "We need to have her on the
So
podcast.
bad.
She is amazing." And I think also, like, we're like a big part of it too is normalizing being single in your 50s, and I think that's something that's been, I don't know. I mean, world-renowned wisdom. I saw this thing on TikTok the other day, so
Oh
clearly.
my gosh, Julie.
I don't
TikTok.
even know. I'm such a lurker on TikTok. TikTok, I don't even do anything. I just lurk on there at night. But I
That
can't
sounds so
even.
creepy. I just lurk on
does.
TikTok
It
looking at
sounds so
17-year-olds
creepy.
dance.
Hey,
at night.
hey! I was not looking at 17-year-olds
They were
dancing.
18.
Let's not. But I actually have no idea who said this, so I don't know who to give credit to. But someone was like, okay, like we have to stop with this like self-love for single people, like that you need to fix yourself in order to have a relationship. And I was like, fuck yeah. Like, I feel like we are always talking about self-love. And I do think people should have self-love. And I don't think it's exclusive for single people or people in relationships. But I do agree with this premise of like, you need to love yourself before you can love someone else. Like, I mean, to some degree, there's some truth in it, but it also, I feel like you need to be doing that if you're in a relationship and you've been in a relationship since college also. Like
Yes, that's a very good point because this whole time the propaganda has been you have to love yourself to prep yourself to love
Yeah.
someone, right? But why does it have to be in preparation of a relationship? Why can't you just love yourself in preparation
Right.
of loving yourself by yourself, And it doesn't need to be about making yourself better so that you're more dateable.
Yeah, and the reality is you're going to be single or alone at some point of your life, even if you're not single per se. Like my mom, I've been at my parents' house for anyone that's new through the holidays, and my dad leaves during the pandemic to go to work, and my mom has been by herself. So it's like, yes, she's in a couple, but you're still on your own in some way. Like you're never with someone 24/7. Like you need to have these skills whether you're in a relationship or not.
Yeah, so I guess the end goal is not about getting into a relationship. The
No.
end goal is finding that relationship with yourself where you care and love who you are, and then you're able to spread that love with other people.
Yeah.
That's like an after fact. But this is
Yeah.
like, this is what this episode is really about, because May, she is really put her career as priority for many years. I mean, she had a booming career. She's traveled the world, but not that she's given up relationships. She's also been in a series of long
Mm-hmm.
relationships. But her whole motto is, I'd rather be alone and thriving on my own than be with someone who's dragging me down and not letting me blossom and not
Mm-hmm.
motivating me or inspiring me. So, this is why she's in her 50s and single, and she has not been married or has had kids, and no fucking regrets. This is like the question we've always had. We're like, am I going to regret this in, in like 20 years, 30 years, whatever it may be, when I'm in my 50s and 60s? She's like, no, I had never predicted this. I did not plan
Yeah.
this for myself, but I have no regrets because all the decisions I made in my life were my decisions. I had control over them.
Right. Well, that was the whole piece about normalizing being single. And that's what made me think of this revelation from TikTok. But it was like the reason you're single might not be because there's something broken with you. It's like the reason could be that you've just prioritized other things in your life.
Right.
And I know for a while for myself, like I feel like I didn't really start like really dating till like late 20s. Like of course like through college and like early 20s I had the flings and like just people that came in and boyfriends and whatnot, but it wasn't like an active dating because there was so much of just getting like my own career in order, moving to a new city, building a life. Like it's sometimes it's not a reflect, it's not like you can't do it, you just haven't like pushed that way.
And that's why our podcast, we have so many listeners who are in relationships, who are married, because dating is not just about being single. Dating is also about being comfortable with yourself, dating yourself,
Mm-hmm.
and knowing how to take care of yourself. I think that, like you were saying, it's we're not going to be with someone else like 24/7 all the time, and you can't predict the future, but you can only predict that you're going to be with yourself
Right. And
all
I
the
mean,
time.
like, of course, I think the like, can you have it all is the $1 million question. But we do also talk in this episode too about like this feeling of that you're never, even if you're alone, you're never alone. We actually we did a series of holiday happy hours as part of the sounding board this week. And one of our members, Caitlin, she like posted that I guess that was like a quote she had during the happy hour that like with this group, she never feels alone. And I was like, oh, that just brings so
So
much
sweet.
warmth. Another thing that they did that was just so adorable is apparently went around and like shared all what everyone loved about each other to like build
Oh
everyone
my
up. And I was like,
gosh.
this is literally the
I'm
best group of people
crying.
ever. I
That
know.
is
I know.
insane.
So
Oh, I love them.
but never alone. I think that's really true. And it's like, especially during this pandemic, it has pushed us. Like a lot of us, like I know a lot of people in the group too, like moved to a new city. Like that's gotta be hard being single, but like you can find those people. And I think with May too, it's like sometimes, I've talked about this. It's like, okay, right now, maybe it's okay to be like single or, not like having children or whatever it is, but will we regret this in like 20 years? And I think like hearing her say that, I'm like, first of all, you just can't predict the future. Like I would never have even known that
Nope.
I'd be here today, So it's
In
like,
your parents' basement?
well, I meant doing the podcast, but yes, that I could have predicted because I was here 20 years ago.
Full circle.
Full circle. But I think it's like also like it points out too, it's like I mean, I love being in relationships. Some of my best times and memories have been in a relationship, but I also love being single. Like I feel like I have the opportunity to focus on different things. Like I don't, if I honestly, like if I had children, like I do believe you can have a thriving career and have kids, but I realistically probably wouldn't have the amount of time that I do to put towards this podcast, for instance. And like you probably wouldn't either. It's just like the reality is like there's always trade-offs with everything. And like, there's no right or wrong. It's kind of like what is working for you, and things can change at different times too.
And not being tied to some sort of outcome. It's not the whole, I need to get married, I need to
Mm-hmm.
have kids, I need to have this career where I'm made SVP by the time I'm 35,
Right.
or whatever these are. These are sort of things that are not in your control, but what is in
Mm-hmm.
your control is you can say, I want a life where I feel fulfilled, where I feel motivated, inspired, a life where I feel like I'm loved and that I can give love to other
Yep.
people. I think those are things that are tangible and in your control. And that's sort of May's philosophy. But what
Mm-hmm.
is even what more wonderful about our conversation with May, because we recorded this a few months ago, and May recently emailed us with an update, and she's like, guess what, this is just like the craziest thing, because she wasn't looking for relationships. She was kind of like, if it happens, it happens, but
Especially right now.
especially right now, I'm very happy. She's got two lovely dogs. She's like having a great time. And she went on OkCupid after our conversation because she was curious. And we had talked about how during the pandemic, there was more activity with online
Mm-hmm.
dating, and ended up meeting someone. And now they're in a serious relationship. When she emailed this to me, this was in October. They had been together for 3 months. So it's been 5 months now.
Amazing.
Incredible. And she's been posting photos of them like cooking together and celebrating together. But it's not something she was like, I must have this in my life. But it's wonderful that she was able to find someone.
Right. We always say, like, if you're in a good place yourself, like, you either, like, are happy, right? Even if you don't meet someone, or you attract someone at the same energy level because you're in a good place. So I'm sure, like, that was how it worked for her. And I think this is amazing. I mean, this is what happens when you come on Dateable. So I know the guests are going to be lining up now for season 12. We just
Who's next?
unleashed.
Who's next?
Our inbox becomes flooded tomorrow. This
We're
is the way, guys.
We become the relationship setters. We're just
Yeah.
setting up that ball for you. Um, yes, exactly. So I think this episode is not about like, hooray, being single, like single people empowerment, because I'm also sick of that message too. This is about finding a life and creating a life that where you feel fulfilled, and that doesn't need to be tied to these outcomes that society tells you about.
Right.
It's about what you create for yourself.
You know what I'm so sick of? Can I just rant for 1 second? Like, I hate that. Why do we even have to call, like, single people and people in relationships? Like, why does there have to even be this divide? Like, I just want to be friends with people regardless of their relationship status. Like, I want people to just view me as a person regardless of mine. Like, why does this even have to define us in any way? You know, like, it pisses me off. And I feel like that's like what makes things like the way they are, because we have these like binary ways of like, like segregating us essentially.
Well, that's how the media can sell their TV shows and their movies. That's how these brands can sell their services and their products, because there has to be a divide and there has to be a me versus you. But I agree, and that's why I love this community we created with Dateable. My friend Drea, who Drea,
Mm-hmm.
said the other day, because she's now in a relationship with someone who's on our podcast
Past
before.
guest. We may or may not have them at some future time.
We gotta have them back. And she said, I didn't know that the Facebook group was for people in relationships too. I'm like, it's for everyone. Anybody
Yeah.
who cares about love is for everyone. And she also felt that divide, from the way she was
Mm-hmm.
talking about it. It was like, oh, I thought it was for single people only. No, we don't want to live in a world like that, where it's like, oh, it's for these sort of people only. No, it's for everyone. For everyone.
Mm-hmm.
Love transcends everybody.
Right. And if you will do, I'm like, how do I segue this?
Are
But
you segueing to merch? Is
Yeah,
that
I
what you're-
am. I am. I was like,
And if
I
you
was like,
love
whether.
merch,
It's like, well, I was gonna say whether you're in a relationship or not. One of our best friends, she bought Master Dating, and she has been married for like 10 years and has a child. So, I don't think she's actually been married for 10 years, but she's been with her significant other
yes, they've
for
been
like
together
10
for a long
years.
time, yes.
But she bought that Dateable cup and Master Dating mug. So, but I think quarantine for fuckboys, regardless if you're taken, single, whatever. I don't want to use these words anymore, but everyone could be quarantined for fuckboys.
I love that my friend bought why. He's married, but he is like, I just love that sweatshirt that says why,
Great.
because he can take all his Zoom meetings, and if someone asks him a question, he'll just show them the sweatshirt. He doesn't need to say
I
anything.
never even thought about that. But so another reason we are going to, because we are finally leaving 2020, we are going to be doing a blowout sale to kind of end some of our merch that is going to get discontinued in 2020. So if there's something you've been eyeing for a bit, this is the time to get it. We will be giving a 21% discount.
That's right. For 2021. Get it? Get it?
So the discount code is going to be shop21. So definitely make sure you get on it and get that merch before it goes out so you could be dateable regardless of your relationship status.
There you go. 21% off. It's a lot. That's quite a lot. A lot more
Yeah,
than
this
20%.
was on our Black. It's even more than 1% beyond our Black Friday sale.
There you go. Our biggest sale ever. That's how they always sell you.
And
The
then
biggest sale ever.
our other quick announcement, I think just one thing to clarify, just we have the Facebook group, Love in the Time of Corona Facebook group, that is free. And we do ask though that you give us a little blurb about yourself, just because we want to make sure you're a real person. We don't know who's listening all the time, and we it's a safe space, so we want to make sure that people that are legit and not just randoms on the internet are coming in. So if you have been not approved and this was a mistake, it is not because we don't love you. It's because you did not give us enough information. So come back, fill out that information, and you can come in. And then we also have the sounding board group, which is our premium community. And that's where all the magic happens. That's where we have the happy hours, the podcast discussion groups. We also have the audio series available. That's a special audio series just for sounding board members. And there's a discussion group. The December episode we released is about navigating ambiguity, which honestly could not be coming at a better time. And let's be honest, there's still going to be ambiguity coming into January. So the beauty too is even if you join now, you get the episodes from November and December, which will be automatically delivered to your Apple Podcast feed. So if you're not a member of the sounding board yet, you can go to dateablepodcast.com/sounding board. So definitely want to get on it. We have so many good things for 2021. Wow, it has a good ring to it. 2021.
2021. I know that we want to get to this episode, but it's our last episode for the year. So we're going to talk a bit longer. Okay, fuck it. We're going to do it because we got to talk about the would you rather question from last week. It was all around honesty because our episode with Jared Freed was about why is it so hard to be honest when it comes to dating and relationships, and how can we just be more honest with other people and ourselves. So the would you rather was, if you are dating someone and you're really into them and they decide that they wanted to pursue someone else that they've been seeing, would you rather hear the truth, or would you rather hear them say, I'm just not in a place to date right now? And this is the first time where the results on Facebook and in our Instagram were the exact same.
Wow.
So everyone was on the same page. But
I purposely don't look because I want to make sure that I am staying unbiased. I think it might depend when it is in the relationship. Like when it is. Like if I've literally had like one video date from them, I don't need that much honesty. Like if I don't even know them at all. But if I've been dating them for a bit and I would much rather just hear that there's someone else, even though that might hurt. I've definitely been here before. I've been here on the receiving end and the giving end. So the receiving end, one of like my first, I would say, relationships, I'm kind of air quoting because it was never like fully official. It was like, one of those situationships, but it was like 6 months-ish. And I was really crazy about this guy. Like I really liked him. I don't even know if I've ever told you about him, Yue, because he way far was before you and I met. Oh,
it was before my time?
Oh. Way before your time.
Okay, and he doesn't
This
exist.
was like...
In my mind, he does not exist.
This was like right when I moved to San Francisco. I was like really into this guy. We met on Match.com. That's how outdated it is. And anyways, we had the 6 months. It was like kind of like on his terms type of thing. And I finally got the courage to like put it all out there and be like, I really want to date you. Like, I'm really like into you. And he basically was like, he was basically like, oh, like I really like you, but like, I just haven't had a relationship since I was like in college. I'm not really like looking for a relationship. I'm not a relationship type of guy, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, okay. And I still, of course, had that like glimmer of hope. And then what do I see like a week later is like a photo with him and a girl at House of Prime Rib, which is like
fuck, a House of Prime Rib.
House of Prime Rib. So it's clearly not just like, you know, yeah. So for anyone not in SF, it's like this really like institutional restaurant. You don't just go there with a random person. It was
You
like
don't take a Tinder date.
it was
there.
his birthday, and she like got him the like. It was clearly they were dating. Okay, this was like a month later, so I'm like, obviously there was an overlap, you know, like the whole thing. And I just remember seeing this photo on Facebook, and like my heart like just sunk seeing that, because I'm like, here's me like still holding out hope for this dude. It would have been so much better if he was just like, hey, like I met someone else that I really click with, you know, like yeah. So anyways, that was harsh.
Heartbreaking.
I have also been on the other side where I had a stalker. I don't know if I've ever even shared this with you either. This was also before your time.
Why are you telling me all this now? All this new information.
I feel like I repressed some of it. But I had this guy that just like wouldn't, like we slept together once, and it was like, he was just, it was like all on, and I was like not interested at all. It just was not good. There were other reasons even before sleeping together. It just wasn't a fit. And I made the mistake of not being honest and telling him that I was in a relationship. Like I met someone else, which was not true. I was not in a relationship. And he didn't stop bothering me. He was just like, well, I'm sure it will end soon and I'll be here. It was just like constantly like there. And it just eventually I had to be like, even if I'm not in a relationship, like I don't want to be with you. Like it was like, it had to be so honest. So I should have just been honest from day one. So both of these are a very long-winded way of saying I would definitely choose the honesty, because it's bit me in the butt both times. From both directions.
You know, it's so you're in a majority. 95% of people chose honesty, and 5% chose the little white lie. My problem with the statement of I'm just not in a place to date right now is that it doesn't close the door completely.
Exactly.
And
exactly.
And that's really hurt me in the past, where someone said that to me or have said something along the lines of that. And then I just think, then it becomes a waiting game for me. I'm like, oh, so not right now, as in today, but maybe tomorrow. And then I start creating excuses for them, like, oh, because they're going through transition at work, or it's because they're doing this and they're dealing with family. But once this whole thing blows over, they're going to be ready for a relationship. What they're really trying to say is, I'm not in a place to date you. It's not about their own timing.
And even if they aren't, like, I think I've learned this the hard way too. It's like, it almost doesn't matter what the reason is.
Yeah,
like, the reality is they're not. And like, you kind of do have to cut that cord. And like, if it truly is meant to be, you'll find your way back at some point. But you can't be there, like, literally having that glimmer of hope that things are going to change, or you just never meet anyone else. I mean, I've learned that by far the hard way.
Absolutely. And in my experience, and in all of our interviews with our guests and listening to our Facebook group, you kind of want to find a way to close the door.
Oh yeah.
I think this is like the cardinal rule of dating. Close that damn door. If that door is still left a little bit open, just a little crack, you're always going to hope that it just fully opens for some magical reason. And the same thing in the reverse is that you always want to close the door with people you're not interested in either. Like, why string them along? There is really no need. And karma is a bitch. If you string someone else along, you're going to get strung along.
Yeah. No, I mean, that situation I told you with that guy that like kept hitting me up, even though I said I was in a relationship, like he wasn't giving up, and it was just bad on both fronts. Like, I should have said it. But do you know how the other guy finally closed the door? I mean, outside of this photo of Prime Rib, this is so fucked up. You're going to die. So I think he sent me an email and was like, hey, like, I have a friend that I want to set you up with. Like, do you want to double date? And I was like, okay, we've like slept together multiple times. Like, this is weird. And I mean, like, I who knows? I could have missed out on my soulmate, but it was still, it was too weird for me. I was like, no. So
What the fuck? You're like, so is he cute?
So all these years later, is he still single?
Yeah,
That's the
yeah. What's his
question.
deal now? Wow, that's like kick you while you're down. Holy
I
shit.
know.
I
Like I
would hate
wasn't even
that.
over it, and then he's like sends me the email. I'm like, glimmer of hope. He's back. And then he's like, I have someone to set you up with. I'm like, how could it get even worse?
Oh, that is the worst feeling because afterwards you feel like a fucking fool.
Yeah.
I hate that feeling in when it comes to dating. It's like feeling like a fool after the
Yes.
fact. And you're like, oh,
Yes.
why couldn't I see? I saw all the signs. Why didn't I act on it? It's just, it makes you feel dumb. I hate that feeling.
But I think his was coming from guilt. But we could go into a whole scenario another day. We need to get to Bailey, so we'll pause it for now. That is like a whole unpacking in itself.
Let's unpack that for the new year for sure. But okay. Okay, now let's get to the one and only Mei Lee.